Okay, the thing that's really interesting, and by interesting, I mean simultaneously hilarious and deeply anxiety-inducing in that way that only late-stage consumer capitalism can achieve, is that Apple, which is to say, the company that has spent the better part of 2 decades training us to regard their products with the kind of reverence previously reserved for religious relics or firstborn children, has now decided that what we really need, what our lives have been missing all along in that nameless dread at 3 a.m. kind of way, is a $150 sock for our phones. And not just any sock, mind you, but a singular 3D knitted construction that represents a collaboration, which is corporate speak, for 2 entities with combined market valuations that could fund several small nations deciding to make a stretchy pouch together between Apple and Issey Miyake, because apparently the regular pocket in your actual pants, which has been doing yeoman's work housing phones since approximately 2007, is no longer sufficient for the task of, holding a rectangular piece of glass and aluminum. The press release, which reads like it was written by an AI trained exclusively on MoMA gift shop catalogs and those insufferable Kinfolk magazine essays about the inherent spirituality of Danish chairs, keeps insisting that iPhone Pocket is inspired by the concept of a piece of cloth, which, and I'm going out on a limb here, is a pretty fucking revolutionary concept if you're living in a pre-textile society, but somewhat less groundbreaking if you've ever encountered, say, a bandana, or a gym bag, or literally any other piece of cloth that has existed since humans figured out weaving roughly 10,000 years ago. But here's where it gets really good, in that special way where good means symptomatic of a broader cultural malaise. They're selling 2 versions, the short strap for $149.95, and the long strap, which presumably required the Promethean effort of knitting additional inches of this singular construction, for $229.95. And these prices are presented without irony, without apology, without even the faintest acknowledgement that you could buy an actual Issey Miyake shirt, like a whole shirt that covers your torso and everything, for roughly the same amount of money. The thing is, and this is where we have to pause and really excavate what's happening here, beneath the surface of all this tasteful, minimalist branding, the iPhone Pocket represents a kind of terminal point in our relationship with personal technology. It's the moment when we've become so thoroughly colonized by our devices that we need special designer garments just to navigate the fact that we can't stop touching them for 30 consecutive seconds. It's solving a problem that only exists because we've created a society where being separated from your phone for the duration of, let's say, a walk to get coffee, induces the kind of panic response that our ancestors reserved for actual predators. And look, I get it. I'm complicit in this too. We all are. I've checked my phone approximately 17 times since starting this paragraph, which means I'm part of the problem even as I'm attempting to anatomize it, which is maybe the most predictable and banal observation anyone could make, but that doesn't make it less true. The real genius of iPhone Pocket, though, if we're using genius in that particular late capitalist sense that's become increasingly indistinguishable from cynical manipulation of human psychology for profit, is that it takes the already existing infrastructure of pockets, which have been successfully transporting personal items on human bodies since at least the 17th century, and declares them inadequate, obsolete, somehow insufficient for the sacred task of cradling your iPhone 16 Pro Max, or whatever incrementally improved rectangle you're currently leasing from Apple's upgrade program. The press release goes on, and this is where you can really feel the copywriter earning their retainer, to explain that when stretched, the open textile subtly reveals its contents and allows users to peek at their iPhone display, which is apparently a feature and not, just a thing that happens when you stretch fabric, which is what fabric does when you stretch it. This isn't exactly splitting the atom here, folks, but what really sends me, what really exemplifies the whole vertigo-inducing absurdity of this entire enterprise, is the notion that Apple specialists, which is what Apple calls their retail employees, in the same way that Starbucks calls their workers partners, and everyone just goes along with these euphemisms because we've collectively agreed to pretend that late-stage capitalism is actually a form of creative collaboration rather than, labor relations. Anyway, these Apple specialists are going to help customers mix and match different lengths and colors with their iPhone, as if coordinating your phone sock requires the kind of aesthetic consultation previously reserved for wedding planners or personal stylists. They're offering it in colors with names like peacock and mandarin and cinnamon, which sound less like utilitarian descriptors and more like rejected characters from a children's book about anthropomorphic spices. And there's something deeply telling about the fact that we've reached a point where even our phone accessories require the kind of artisanal naming conventions that suggest a backstory, a narrative, a whole constructed identity that has absolutely nothing to do with the actual function of holding your fucking phone. And here's Yoshiyuki Miyamai, design director of Miyake Design Studio, talking about the joy of wearing iPhone in your own way and leaving things less defined to allow for possibilities and personal interpretation, which is the kind of design philosophy that sounds profound right up until you remember that we're talking about a $150 stretchy pouch and that the possibilities being referenced here are roughly equivalent to the possibilities inherent in deciding whether to wear your fanny pack on your front or your back. The collaboration itself is being framed as this meeting of minds between two titans of design, Apple and Issey Miyake, sharing a design approach that celebrates craftsmanship, simplicity, and delight, when what we're really witnessing is two luxury brands recognizing that their overlapping customer demographics include people with sufficient disposable income and sufficiently attenuated critical faculties to spend $230 on what is essentially a glorified phone cozy. What kills me? What really just destroys any remaining faith I might have had in our collective consumer sanity is that this thing is being positioned as a special edition release, which is marketing code for artificially scarce luxury good that we're going to manufacture in limited quantities to create the illusion of exclusivity. And it's only available at 10 Apple stores globally. These temple-like retail spaces in places like Ginza and Regent Street, where even the fucking staircases cost more than most people's cars. And the whole thing is designed to make you feel like you're participating in some kind of elevated cultural moment rather than just buying an overpriced phone sock from a trillion-dollar corporation. The truly diabolical part, though, and this is where Apple's understanding of human psychology really shines through, is that it'll probably work. Some non-trivial percentage of people are going to buy these things, are going to proudly wear them tied to their bags or worn directly on the body, which is such a weird locution, worn directly on the body. Like, as opposed to what? Wearing it indirectly? Wearing it on someone else's body? And they're going to feel like they're making some kind of aesthetic statement, participating in this intersection of technology and fashion, when really they're just demonstrating that they have $150 they don't need for anything important, and a relationship with their phone that probably warrants some light therapy. And look, I'm not saying there's no craftsmanship here. The 3D knitting technology is presumably real and probably interesting if you're into textile manufacturing. And Issey Miyake has a legitimate design pedigree that extends well beyond making phone holsters for anxious professionals. But there's something almost obscene about applying that level of craft and care and R&D to the problem of how to carry a device that already fits in your pocket, that was literally designed to fit in your pocket, that has been fitting in pockets without issue for nearly 2 decades. This is fashion as problem creation rather than fashion as problem solving, which is admittedly what a lot of fashion has always been. But it feels particularly acute when the problem being solved is how do I carry my phone, and the solution is buy this $150 to $130 knitted pouch that requires special trips to flagship stores in global fashion capitals. What we're witnessing here is the apotheosis of a particular kind of consumerist thinking, where the goal isn't to meet actual needs, but to create new categories of desire, to manufacture problems that can only be solved through purchase, to transform the mundane act of carrying a phone into an opportunity for personal expression that requires expensive accessories and expert consultation. It's the same logic that gave us $200 water bottles and $1,000 sneakers, and all the other symptoms of an economy where the production of real value has been largely replaced by the production of artificial scarcity and status signaling. But here's the thing that really keeps me up at night, in that way where you're lying in bed scrolling through your phone, which is probably not in an iPhone pocket because you're a normal person who just uses their regular pocket, and contemplating the slow-motion apocalypse of late capitalism. This shit is going to sell out. These things are going to disappear from those 10 flagship stores within days, maybe hours, and there will be a thriving resale market where people flip them for twice the retail price, and in 6 months, there'll be knockoffs on Amazon for $29.95, and the whole cycle will repeat itself with some other unnecessary luxury accessory that solves a problem nobody actually has. So yeah, the iPhone Pocket, a beautiful way to carry your iPhone. As if beauty was what we were missing in our pocket technology. As if the real tragedy of modern life was that our phones weren't being transported in sufficiently artisanal cloth pouches. As if $150 stretchy phone socks represent some kind of pinnacle of human achievement rather than just another data point in the long, strange story of how we learned to monetize our own anxiety and call it lifestyle design.